I will be the very first to advocate in this video about why you shouldn't try to learn a language fast, in 3 months, in 1 month, in a week, however you define what learning a language fast means for you. Plus, I'm going to talk about what to do instead. I don't know if you can relate, but whenever I was at the start and also in the middle of my language journey, I saw learn this way the fastest. Learn Spanish the fastest. This is how you memorize vocabulary the fastest. Every time I saw those kinds of things, my original goal for what I was even wanting in my language learning turned all back into the goal itself being just learn fast, and that's it. And I completely forgot that why I was going into language learning anyways, which was, of course, to want to be fluent, but even deeper than that, wanting to live a more global feeling life and have fulfillment and joy connecting with others. Whenever we, especially in the language learning niche, there are always going to be the words fast, efficient. And in such an attention-driven economy, I've really observed how we tend to start thinking in black and white, that there is only one way to learn a language so that we do reach our goals. And then if we don't learn that specific way, well then we might as well just give up because every other way just doesn't count, because it might not help us, AKA learn the fastest. Of course, the goal will probably always be at least in the back of our minds. But what takes up a lot more mental space is once we have been around the block in the language learning communities online that we might follow, especially on YouTube, for a while, then it's easy to totally let the way of how we get to our goal become the goal itself. And the more mental space that we allow learning fast to take up in our minds, the more we start questioning our decisions about our language learning. Because if we only have one metric to measure success by, then a majority, if not everything that we do inside our routine is going to feel like it potentially won't live up to the one specific way of learning a language. And before I get into what to actually do instead of just assuming that learning a language fast is the only way to actually reach fluency on our own terms, let's address also the fact that I have posted videos in the past about how to reach this and this language in B1 in 3 months. I've done it for French, for Italian, for German, etc. And on the surface, it might just seem like I am advocating for learning a language fast. But when you actually look at the video, it truly gives you, yes, a plan if you want to structure your learning so that you do reach B1 in 3 months, but gives you practical ways to extend the time that you take through a variety of modifications you can make to that same routine so that it fits more of your schedule, more of your energy, which can definitely fluctuate, which we can't exactly plan for, and of course, the busy life and outside obligations that you are naturally going to have. The deeper purpose of these videos is to help you be more discerning about what you choose to take on in your language learning. In other words, it does give you all the tools you need to try to reach B1 in 3 months, proving to yourself that you can do it, but instills the idea that just because you can do something does not mean you should. Just because you're capable of something doesn't mean it's the best thing for you and your life circumstances to do in the moment. Assuming that learning a language fast is the only way to get to your goals is exhausting. As I said before, when you second guess yourself and your decisions only against that metric, then everything starts to feel heavier in your language learning. So that's why I made the Language Learning Sustainability Planner. It helps you design a study system that fits your real life and not just your ideal one. So you can grab it in the description for free or also in the pinned comment below. Understanding how discernment can play such a pivotal role in your language learning, especially when you feel that you are spiraling down, thinking about how you're not learning fast enough, how you're not being productive enough. The art of actually discerning what is truly important and aligned for you to include is such an underrated and overlooked skill that many learners just put to the side and even forget that they have whenever they are bombarded with the same messaging of there's only one way to reach fluency in a language. Plus, when you actually understand yourself better as a language learner and you understand what's truly more aligned for you, that is when you can start to center your own expectations instead of someone else's expectations or the expectations that the bombardment of how to learn a language fast is instilling within you. And that is also making you probably pretty frustrated in the process about how you're not doing things the right way, quote unquote. And how do we become more aligned in our language learning? I want to introduce to you my signature coaching method, the Mindful Fluency Method, which always advocates for you, first of all, identifying your values. This can be a little bit tricky because we don't always just sit down and expect in a language learning experience to know what our values are. Your values are the essence of who you are and what you truly believe in. It is completely personalized. You can think of adventure or curiosity or knowledge as examples of values. Next, the Mindful Fluency Method calls for you to take audit of what you've been doing for the last 2 weeks in your routine. Specifically, you're going to ask yourself, what actions have I taken that have gone against some of my values? And what actions have I taken that have supported my values? This might be a little bit hard to figure out, but let me give you some more examples. Say that one of my values is peace, but then I go into looking back at over 2 weeks of language learning and think how I was trying to pressure myself into having 5 conversation classes for the week. And I knew that after looking back, that caused a lot of internal pressure for me to grind through and show up even after having an totally energy draining workday. And it turns out those conversation lessons that I was doing in my learning just left me felt more exhausted, less peaceful for sure, and putting more pressure on myself to show up in a way that was outside of my capacity. In that way, I wasn't abiding to my value of peace in my life. Now let me give you the opposite example. Say that one of your values is curiosity, and so you reflect on the past 2 weeks and you thought, hey, I went to a language learning event for the first time as a beginner, and I used a lot of curiosity in order to ask questions that were within my beginner range. Even though there might have been a lot of people around me that had a higher level or that I felt kind of intimidated to talk to, I still used at least a few questions in my target language because I wanted to know more about them. I was curious about them. So I abided by my value of curiosity in that way. After you've identified this, next you're going to brainstorm what is one action you can take this week that can embody one of your values that you listed above. For example, for the person that went against their value of peace, they can think to themselves, hey, maybe I just need to try 2 conversation lessons per week. And by the end of the week, see if I feel a little bit more peaceful and rested by doing so. For the person that already abided by one of their values for curiosity, they could think to themselves, hey, one action I could take is, still go to the same language learning event if it's held, or I can also go to the library section and explore all of the library's stocks of foreign language books, and would just really help me scratch the itch of being curious about other languages as well. And if you find out that you were abiding by one of your values through one of the actions that you decided to take that following week, you can use that as inspiration to create or refine a more aligned to you goal. For our example, for the language learner who abided by their value for peace, by reducing the number of conversation classes they were going to have, they find out, hey, I felt a lot more rested and had more of a peace of mind because I wasn't putting so much pressure on myself to show up in a way that was not conducive to my busy life, nor my energy, nor my values. I'm going to maintain the 2 times per week conversation class and just not bump it up. For curiosity, you could zoom out a little bit more and simply make it a goal to gain exposure to your target language through any sort of media that you would like. Just being able to follow your curiosity without pressure is a great goal to have. Now, this is only the beginning of how the Mindful Fluency Method works. You can actually learn how to master the full method through my 9-month coaching experience that we do one-on-one called Multilingual You. If you are a solo learner with ambitious goals, but you're feeling frustrated and overwhelmed, but really want to get fluent by the end of this year, then I invite you to book a free discovery call down in the pinned comment below and see if multilingual you could be a good fit for you. As a reminder, there are multiple ways to reach fluency on your own terms. You don't have to hammer into your brain that it has to be fast, because that is one of just the many options that you can take. Reconnect first with your mindset, aka your values. Start to build or refine your goals off of those actions that you took. And you'll find slowly that more alignment is going to find you in your language learning. So much so that the learn this language in 1 month or learn a language fast start to even become a little bit more irrelevant to you being able to find joy and fulfillment and just feeling proud of yourself in your language learning in general. Thanks you guys for tuning in for this video. I'll catch you in the next one soon.